As a person who went to school, had hateful comments directed my way, the first victim of this tragedy was the shooter. It was the day that they could not take it any longer. An uneducation to understand that maybe difference is okay. The first victim to this tragedy was...
Stop and listen to this. A mass shooting just left 10 people dead in Canada, and this speaker is actually claiming the shooter was the first victim. This is a level of moral inversion that has people absolutely stunned. We need to look at what's really happening in the aftermath of this tragedy.
That maybe difference is okay. The first victim to this tragedy was the shooter.
Can you believe what we just heard? The speaker literally says the first victim of this tragedy was the shooter because they could not take it any longer. It's a total abandonment of the 10 people who actually lost their lives. Think about the families of those 25 injured people hearing that the person who pulled the trigger is the one we should be mourning. The expert friend in me says this is a classic example of ideological capture. Instead of focusing on the horrific loss of life, including the shooter's own mother and sibling, the narrative is being twisted to blame uneducation and hateful comments. It's an attempt to turn a mass murderer into a martyr for a specific social cause. This kind of rhetoric doesn't just cloud the facts, it effectively erases the actual victims to serve a political point. When a society starts sympathizing more with the perpetrator's identity than the victims' lives, you know the moral compass has completely spun out of control. It's not about difference being okay anymore. It's about justifying the unjustifiable.
I can say that Jesse was born as a biological male who approximately, the information that I have, approximately 6 years ago began to transition to female and identified as female both socially and publicly.
Unfortunately, we've heard a lot of transgender and masculine shootings. Do you think there's a correlation here?
It's too early to say whether that has any correlation in this investigation. I think it's important to recognize that this investigation is still in its infancy. We have scenes still lock down the school and the residence while we execute search warrants and gather further evidence and talk to witnesses.
Look at the RCMP official during this press conference. He is flat out refusing to state the biological sex of the suspect, Jesse Van Retzelaar. He says they identify the suspect as they chose to be identified. This is a criminal investigation into a mass killing, yet the priority of the authorities seems to be protecting the shooter's preferred pronouns. It's mind-blowing. In any other investigation, physical descriptors like biological sex are fundamental to the profile. But here, the police are acting as if they are part of a social justice department rather than law enforcement. The reporter even has to push him twice to get a straight answer, and even then it's wrapped in a layer of social and public identification. This shows how deep woke ideology has penetrated even the highest levels of Canadian authorities. They are more afraid of misgendering a mass murderer than they are of providing clear biological facts to a grieving public. It's a complete breakdown of objective reality in favor of identity politics, and it leaves the community with more questions than answers about the true nature of the threat.
Why is it that so much of Netflix content for children promotes a transgender ideology? Almost half of your content for children, I'm talking about minor children now, I'm not talking about teenagers, minor children, promotes a transgender ideology agenda. I was just looking at the data here from your various series.
Senator Hawley, Netflix has no political agenda of any kind. I would tell you that.
Well, then why is your children's program so full of this highly sexualized, highly controversial agenda? I don't understand it. It seems strange to me.
Respectfully, sir, it's because it's inaccurate. We have millions of hours of children's programming.
You're saying it's not there. You don't have trans. You don't feature trans characters, trans storylines, trans themes. It's not in your programming.
I'm saying we feature a wide variety of stories and programs to meet a wide variety of.
Now, look at this clash between Senator Josh Hawley and the Netflix CEO. Hawley is calling out the highly sexualized, highly controversial transgender ideology appearing in children's programming. The CEO's defense is simply that they feature a wide variety of stories. But he completely dodges the question about the specific volume of trans-themed content for minor children. This is the three-layer indoctrination problem we're seeing. It starts in the classroom, moves to the phone through apps like Netflix, and ends in the doctor's office. It's an ecosystem designed to normalize radical shifts in biological identity from a very young age. When the CEO says they have no political agenda, yet the data shows a massive influx of this specific theme, it's hard to take him at face value. Hawley is highlighting what many parents are seeing: a push to bypass parental guidance and market complex adult themes directly to kids who aren't even old enough to drive. It's a deliberate shift in culture that's happening right under our noses, and the corporate giants are the ones leading the charge. This is the reality check that the industry doesn't want you to see. A 22-year-old woman just won a $2 million settlement against New York doctors who pushed her into a double mastectomy when she was just 16. She was a child, and the medical experts convinced her that removing healthy parts of her body was the only way to survive. This is the danger of our society we're talking about. The truth has been labeled as hate speech, and the resulting medical interventions are leaving young people with lifelong consequences. A $2 million win is a massive statement. It's a legal acknowledgement that the gender-affirming care model failed this young woman. These doctors told her she would die if she didn't transition, using fear to bypass informed consent. Now she's part of a growing group of detransitioners who are speaking out about being misled by a system that prioritizes ideology over biological reality. It's a tragic warning that these medical decisions aren't always based on science, but on a trend that's leaving victims in its wake.
People are dead and dozens injured in one of Canada's deadliest mass shootings. Police said the suspected shooter, an 18-year-old biological male who transitioned to female, is also dead. Officials say the suspect had prior mental health issues and a motive has not been determined. Police say 6 people were killed at a school in remote northern British Columbia and 2 others were found dead.
We have to go back to the source of this current tragedy in Canada. 10 people are dead and 25 are injured. The suspect is an 18-year-old biological male who identifies as female. The news report details 6 victims at a school and 2 others at a nearby home. This is one of Canada's deadliest shootings, and it's happening in a community that is now reeling from the shock. The authorities say the motive is undetermined, but as we've seen, the suspect's history includes multiple visits from the police for mental health emergencies and firearms offenses. The system knew there was a problem, but they were no closer to settling on a motive. This raises a massive red flag. If the suspect was mentally unwell and had prior firearms offenses, how did they still have access to a long gun and a modified handgun? It's a total failure of the safety nets that were supposed to protect that school and those families. The focus on the suspect's identity after the fact seems like a massive distraction from the systemic failures that allowed this mass shooting to happen in the first place. This Canadian tragedy is a wake-up call for all of us. Is the world losing its grip on reality? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.